Good morning, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting and Work Session for April 9, 2019. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board, and to my right is...
Ty Menser, Commissioner.
Thomasina Cooper, Assistant to Ty Menser.
Lapalita Bolmar, Clerk of the Board.
Robin.
Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager.
Romero Chavez, County Manager.
And on the bench.
Megan Porter, Public Information.
And a cast of characters in the gallery. We're going to begin reviewing the BoCC draft agenda for this afternoon, April 9th, starting at 2 o'clock. And kicking off at 2, as I said, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Menser. Then we'll approve the agenda, allegedly, and the board meeting minutes for March 26th. And then we have the opportunity for the public to address the board. Are we aware of anything?
Commissioner, you may get some public testimony related to the public hearing on the courthouse and regional administrative center project. In the public hearing, as you set out last week, is for April 23rd at 5:30 in the afternoon. So you may start receiving some public testimony related to that, as we have already started receiving some written comments related to that as well.
Yes, I will be adding the minutes for April 2nd.
Okay. Thank you. You aware of anything, Ty?
No.
Okay. Then we have the county manager's update, following up on citizen issues.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on a couple of public testimony that you received in the last couple of weeks. And later on today's agenda, I have an item number 2 that we will go through in more detail as to how I'm planning to respond to the public testimony that you received.
And where is that on the agenda?
On this agenda,
Oh, on this one, okay. Thank you.
item number 2.
Got it. Okay. And number 3, agenda item number 3, consent items A through F. Number 1 is Public Health and Social Services approving revisions to the Veteran Assistance Program policy.
Yeah, you reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and this is a proposal for you to consider to change some of the conditions related to how we assist veterans as part of the Veterans Assistance Program. These recommendations have been reviewed by the Veterans Advisory Board, and some of the changes before you includes changing the poverty level definition from 150% of the national poverty level to 200%. The dock court order payments from the veterans' income, increase the maximum allocation of assistance from $500 to $1,000 for a single veteran, and $800 to $2,000 for a family. Also allows for motel stay in the event of a shelter beds are full and unavailable. Pay for utilities. They may include septic and approval for service and allowed repairs of utilities as well. Assistance will be expanded to allow the repair for the veteran's primary vehicle, to allow for transportation to work, and repairs will be limited to basic operations and ADA compliance. Also, assistance will be expanded to include occupational items such as licensing, work attire, safety equipment, and mandatory equipment. And you heard from Mark Moffitt last week, and this is, I believe, is welcome changes to expand the services to our veterans here in Thurston County.
Questions or comments? Thank you very much, Mark, for your work on this. Especially in light of hearing this morning we lost 3 Americans in Afghanistan, 3 soldiers. So I'm very happy to do this. Letter B, 3B, Community Planning and Economic Development, Resolution reclassifying a position.
This is an item for your consideration. This is, again, a continued effort by the Community Planning and Economic Development Director to see how it will best fit the current positions they have to meet the needs of the business. This particular request is for you to consider reclassifying a position, the Permit Assistance Technician 3 to a Permit Assistance Technician 2. This will result on a reduction from $5,257 a month to $5,006 a month, resulting in a decrease of $251 a month, or just about 4.8% reduction.
Question or comment? Good. Good to go. And 3, is it 3C? Yep. Community Planning Economic Development, again, CPAD, reappointment.
This is a follow-up to the direction from the board to reappoint Mr. Andrew Harding to the Storm and Surface Water Advisory Board as representative for Commissioner District Number 1. This term will begin in April 12, 2018, and will end April 22nd, 2022.
Okay. All right. 3D, David, or Delta. Approval of Board County Commissioners work session summaries.
Yeah, a series of work sessions for your consideration to approve the minutes.
Oh, yeah. Long list.
Mm-hmm.
3E, CPAD, reappointment.
You also following the board's direction to reappoint Ms. Patricia Levine, to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. And this term will be from March 15, 2019 to March 15, 2021.
Okay. Good.
Good. Real quick, going back to C or D, we had been taking things off that I wasn't present for from the consent.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you.
We just separate those out?
Yeah, we'll separate those out.
Okay.
All those, they have 2018 dates will together.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good eye. F, the financial, the vouchers. Do you have any questions or comments or polls or anything like that?
No, took it.
Okay. We're good to go there. Department items, agenda item number 4, Public Health Social Services, a program agreement.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item you also reviewed last week. This item is aligned to the strategic initiative number 2 of the Thurston County Strategic Plan. And this is a contract between Thurston Social Specialized Recreation and Department of Social Health Services Developmental Disabilities Administration for the provision for community settings respite care services to adults with developmental disabilities. And this is for a period of January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2020. This does not have an actual dollar amount in the contract because all the activities that we perform under this program are reimbursed by the county, by the state. So, and the request is for you to extend this current program to December 31st, 2020.
And this is an ongoing.
Yeah,
It's an ongoing. It's not new. It's ongoing.
Right.
Yeah, working with the DDA with the social services with the state is
And
a
Margaret
good
is
thing.
here to answer any questions if you have any particular questions.
Yeah, no, good. Agenda item number 5, Public Works, resolution for sealed bids. In fact, the next several of them are sealed bids.
Yeah, this is a proposal before you to conduct sealed bids to award the contract for improvements related to the Olympic View Elementary Safe Route to Schools. Those improvements will include installation of traffic calming devices such as speed bumps and raised intersection, curb ramps throughout the Thompson Place neighborhood, and school walking routes. This particular project will cost about $600,000 and is funded entirely by state and federal grants. So there is no road money associated with this project. And this project is aligned to initiative number 1 of the Thurston County Strategic Plan.
Okay.
Good.
No, good.
5B, sealed bids.
Yeah, you also reviewed this, this item last week. This is a yearly request from Public Works, and this is to secure actually prices for materials they use during the operations on a yearly basis. And that really allows to have a predictable price as to how the materials will cost while they conduct asphalt operations on the road crews. And yeah.
Okay.
You have any questions?
Anything? No? No. No, sir. Go ahead. We're the number, letter C.
This is also a request for you to consider approving, releasing the seal bids for the 2019 overlay program. And the overlay program is planning to do some overlay work on the Ball Hills Road from Yelm City Limits to Vale Road intersection and segments of Vale Road just south of the intersection. The estimated total construction cost will be about $600,000, and they will be covered by the county road fund. It is included on the budget as well as in the transportation improvement program.
Okay. Anything?
No.
Good. D Delta 5D.
This is also a request from Public Works, and this is related to the chip seal program. And the difference between the chip seal and overlay program, the chip seal is just a very, very thin overlay that allows the road to, last for maybe between 5 and 10 years, versus the actual overlay is when the road conditions are such that no longer a chip seal activities will work. So the overlay approach will take us probably between 15 to 18 years. And the chip seal just extends the life of the road for just about between 5 and 10 years. We do that every year. And this is a request for you to consider issuing the call for bids for the 2019 chip seal program. We have several areas across the county that we do this, and we're expecting to do those activities on 37 miles of county roadways at a cost of $1,800,000, and that comes from the road fund. This item is aligned to initiative number 8 of the county's strategic plan.
Nope. No
Good.
problem.
And the next one, 5E, at the end of the Santa Claus parade, Santa Claus is at the very end because he's the most important, right? So of all these items under Public Works, I love this last one because to me it's the most important. Safe routes to school, chip sealing, that's all very, very important stuff. But this one I like a lot. So go ahead with E, please.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. This is a follow-up to the program that the board implemented maybe 2 years ago, where the board contributed $2 million of the real estate excise tax to back in 2017 as well as 2018 to specifically address fish barriers across the county. And last year, as a result of that investment, we constructed five culverts that we opened up close to 7 miles of fish habitat last year. That particular approach has been precedental across the state and pioneering across the state. And the reason behind that is because any culvert replacement that is done across the state that eliminates fish barriers are always related to a transportation project. So it becomes somewhat of a second objective. In this case, the board has invested on this approach to have specifically address fish barriers across the county. The board approved the same level of funding for 2019 and 2020, $2 million in 2019 and $2 million in 2020 from the real estate excise tax REIT number 2. And this is the first project related to that investment that you will see. And project is located in Tabaton Creek.
Tabaton Creek, yeah.
Tabaton Creek, which is along the Pilsner Road, and this is a key tributary to the Nisqually River. And again, by continuing with this program, I think is becoming a model across the state, to the extent that on April 25th, the department will be receiving an award from the State American Public Works Association from the projects in the program that we delivered last year. And I believe the chair, Commissioner Hutchins, and myself are going to be attending the ceremony along with Public Works staff to receive that award.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that. Questions or comments?
So we have a couple years of funding. Are the projects identified for those? How far along on identifying culverts are we? Do we have the whole 2 years worth of
Yes,
projects
we do
all
have,
lined up?
I can probably give you a list of those projects if you like.
Thanks.
Yeah. And in fact,
Later.
when we began the program, in 2017, we have a whole list of culvert locations. And depending on the funding, we have been tackling those. Certainly, we'll provide you with a list of those projects.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any state money that might be coming? You know, maybe some legislation pending? Or?
So there is a bill, and we'll touch base later on the legislative agenda. The state is planning to have a fish barrier board. They will probably address as to how we can partner, not just with other jurisdictions in the state, but also with private property owners. Because if you see the fish removal of culverts within the ownership of the county, in order to be effective and fully address the objective of opening fish habitat, we need to address the obstruction downstream as well as upstream. And some of those culverts are in the ownership either of the state and perhaps on the property owner, private property owners that really, no matter how much investment we put on this, we need to address from a regional point of view. And I believe this bill is trying to address that as to how we can partner with private property owners to have a holistic approach to improve fish habitat.
And it can't be underestimated, the support and gratitude of our tribal partners in us doing this as well.
Yeah, we coordinate with the tribal partners in making sure that we identify some of the key removal projects. And, we can always do more when we replace one of those culverts. And for instance, under normal circumstances, this has been a very innovative way to address the issue. Because under normal circumstances, what you do is you replace the culvert, open up the obstruction, to with a larger structure. But under normal circumstances, you also improve the creek downstream and upstream. But those investments are very expensive. So in this particular program, we're focusing on removing the obstruction. And it was interesting I can't remember the location on the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Okay, 100 Point?
100 Point, thank you.
Yeah.
Last year, that it was within 2 weeks that we opened that, we saw the evidence of fish going upstream. So it was very telling as to the impact of those improvements on fish habitat. Yeah.
And the investment pays off forever, not only for the fish and the environment, but to see, not only to hear the tribal partners' words, but to see and hear the emotion in their voice and tear in the eyes, seeing the salmon coming back and returning. You just don't forget that. Very, very powerful.
Absolutely.
Anything further?
No.
Agenda item number 6, rather, commissioners and county managers items.
Yeah, this appointment is a follow-up to the board's decision to appoint Mr. Don Dehan to the Thurston County Planning Commission for District 1. And in this position appointment will go through December 31st, 2021. The reason that I have this on the department item is the board, and I believe Commissioner Mason abstained from this vote. So I just want to make sure that is laid out and from the public. Some of the concerns that I believe was highlighted is Mr. Dehan is quote unquote considered to be a snowbird, where he travels to Arizona during the winter months. And I believe the concern was about the commitment, that perhaps he can be effective on the planning commission. That was the gist of the conversation. I just want to make sure that is outlined on the public's perspective. And again, that will give you an opportunity to vote and provide your perspective on this appointment this afternoon.
Good. Good. Okay. Then we're going to flip the page to, we have a public hearing at 3 o'clock. This is for the auditor's department on the boundary and update changes.
Yeah, this is a public hearing for you to receive public testimony on the proposed changes to the precinct boundary, as well as changing the legal description of county commissioners' districts. This is what I consider to be procedural and mainly addresses some of the annexations that have occurred in the last 2 years. And Mary Hull, Thurston County Auditor, will be here to provide a background before you receive public testimony. And again, in any public testimony, you have 2 actions for you to consider. One is to close the public hearing. And depending on the public testimony that you might receive, for your consideration is also to take an affirmative action to approve this ordinance. But you're not bound to do that. I just want to make sure that there is always an option, and you can always delay making a final action as you see fit.
Any questions about the public hearing, Gary?
No.
All right. 3B, right after that, if that's not enough, we have another public hearing.
Yeah, and this public hearing is for you to consider public testimony on the proposed revisions to Thurston County Title VI, that is related to ambulance ordinance. And one of the big changes on this particular proposal includes raising the fee that we receive from the private ambulance services from $20 to $100, which that fee has not been revised since, I believe, in the 90s. And also increase the requirement for liability insurance for each of those outfits. And again, you have the option here to 2 actions. One is to close the public hearing, and depending on the public testimony that you might receive this afternoon, you may take an affirmative actions to approve the changes to Title VI.
Anything? Nope. Okay. So we start the BoCC at 2 o'clock, end at about 3-ish. Then we have 2 public hearings from 3 to about 3:30, and at 3:30 we jump right into the Board of Health. And we have the Board of Health agenda next. And
Morning.
Good morning. And about 3:30 we'll convene the meeting. And welcome to the table here, DHSS Director Shelley Slaughter.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, and Lady Hodgkinson. So we'll approve the agenda and the meeting minutes allegedly. We'll find out. And at 3:35, proclamations and presentations.
Yes, so our first proclamation is Infant Immunization Week, and this will be presented by our Communicable Disease and Prevention Director, Jeannie Knight, and she will share the importance of immunizing infants before age 2 and celebrating along with others throughout the country on this very important month to raise awareness and increase our vaccination rates here in Thurston County.
Okay, anything on that? Nope. Okay. And then proclamation?
The next proclamation is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and there will be several members of our community here to make brief presentations about their role in responding to and preventing sexual assault in our community. And those participants who will be here to accept the proclamation and share information include Sarah Lloyd, who's the Executive Director of Safe Place, Trish Gregory, who is the Executive Director of Family Support Center of South Sound, and partners with our Prosecutor's Office, Clerk's Office, and Sheriff's Office in operating the Thurston County Family Justice Center. And also, we have one other person, Tina Olson, from Providence Sexual Assault Clinic, who will also be here to accept that proclamation.
Beautiful. And then the next one is the Prescription Drug Take-Back Day.
Yes, so this is a little bit early, but we wanted to take the opportunity at the Board of Health to promote a really important day and event coming up, and that is the Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, which will be on April 27th. And our staff person, Jennifer Simmons, will be here to share some information on our program here in Thurston County and provide information on all the different events that will be happening on Drug Take-Back Day and the various locations where people can dispose of their unwanted prescription medications, which help us respond to our opioid crisis as well. There will be members from the City of Tumwater who will be here to accept this proclamation, as well as the City of Tenino. So I believe there will be 5 different guests that will be here and will be sharing a little bit about what they're planning to do as a community on that day.
And that's a Saturday, April 27th.
Yes.
Okay. Questions or comments? Okay. Agenda item number 3, opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. Expecting anything?
I'm not aware of any,
Okay.
but we're always happy when we do have someone that wants to come to talk about Board of Health.
And number 4, department items. Homelessness and public health crisis update. Keely.
Yes, so Keely Marino, our homeless and affordable housing coordinator, will be here to give an update to the Board of Health on our work that we have done to respond to the crisis that you proclaimed last June. This will include an update on the hazardous weather response, updates on the 5-year plan, as well as other efforts to respond to the health concerns of those who are unsheltered in our community. So she's just going to provide an overview upon your request of that.
Good. She's been a very busy lady.
Yes, she has.
Anything on that? Gary? Agenda item number 5, Shelley, Medical Reserve Corps.
Yes, so Jennifer Dixon and team will be here to share really great information about what the Thurston County Medical Reserve Corps has been up to in responding to public health emergencies, not only in preparing for those emergencies here in Thurston County, but the deployments and the work they've done throughout the nation over this last year. So very exciting. It includes responses to Clark County for their measles response, as well as hurricane response, in addition to many of the usual wonderful things that our Medical Reserve Corps helps us do, like mass vaccinations and other activities.
Okay. Anything? Anything?
No.
Well, we're just sailing through this. Agenda item number 6, surface water program update.
Yes, so Art Starry and Jane Mountjoy Venning will be here to report on their surface water program. So we monitor lakes, streams, and beaches to ensure that water quality is safe for recreation and use, and for people and for wildlife here in our community. So they're going to be providing an overview of that program and giving you more information and share with the public what they do and what the status is of that program.
Nice. Anything?
No.
Okay. Number 7, the Board of Health members' related activities. We'll report on that. Then we have the health officer's report. Will Dr. Rachel Wood be here?
Dr. Wood is on annual leave, so she will not be here, and I will be providing a report on her behalf.
Good, thank you. And then the director's report.
Yes, and then I will give a report. I'll be sharing some highlights from our department, as well as some legislative updates and sharing information about our county health rankings.
Okay. And then we'll adjourn the meeting. So that's the BoCC, BOH, public hearings. Light day, very light day. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you so much. See you this afternoon.
We're going to move on to the Tuesday, April 16th Board of County Commissioners agenda. That'll be for next Tuesday. We'll review that agenda. Are you serious? Am I missing something?
Nope, it's a short agenda.
Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Oh, I'm serious. Be quiet. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock and Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the minutes and the agenda for that day. And then we have a presentation at 2:05 from the Timberland Regional Library.
Yes, this is a yearly presentation by the Executive Director, Ms. Cheryl Haywood, which they give you the state of affairs of the Timberland Regional Library. As you know, Ms. Haywood is full of energy, and I always look forward to her presentation.
She is a very cool lady, yeah.
So, I'll be good.
Any questions on that? Anything? Okay. I look forward to that. It's always good to see Cheryl. Opportunity to address the, for the public to address the board is probably a little premature.
Yeah,
Unless you're aware of anything.
maybe we'll see some public testimony related to the courthouse project.
Okay. And county manager's update, again, the same?
And I will follow up on any items that need to.
Consent items A and B. First one is public defense, reclassifying a position.
Yeah, this is a proposed reclassification of from a legal assistant 1 to a legal assistant 2. But let me pause here for a second, commissioners, in this just to relate to the item that you may be considering on CPAD this afternoon as well. On those classifications that come your way, having worked with human resources to put some parameters related to position control. That we have a draft I will be introducing to the departments and offices next Monday afternoon, and eventually that will come as part of a county policy that you may consider approving down the road. And really is for me is to put some consistency as to how reclassifications come before your consideration, how new positions are requested for your consideration, how temporary pay increases are applied to the county as a whole. Certainly there is a need to put some consistency, and I'm hopeful that this particular policy may start addressing that inconsistencies that we have across the county. And again, this is steps that they're coming your way. I don't think my suggestion will be not to, in a way, penalize the departments because they have now seen the new policy and procedure that were going to be implemented. So this particular request is from the Office of Public Defense to reclassify legal assistant 1 to legal assistant 2. And this actually meets the intent of the new procedure, meaning it's about the business needs as what we need to address. In this particular case, as you know, the workload that the Office of Public Defense have increased and continues to increase on a yearly basis. And as a result, you have the board has funded additional positions within the Office of Public Defense, attorneys. And the attorneys need legal assistance. And this particular position is hampered by the ability of the description the legal assistant 1 has to provide the appropriate support to the attorneys. So this really addresses the business needs, in my opinion, of the Office of Public Defense. This, what it does is increases the salary of this position from $4,541 to $5,006. As a result, is $465 a month or just about 10% increase. The department is not asking for a budget increase, and they were planning to absorb this on the current budget allocation. This particular position, it is funded by the general fund because the Office of Public Defense is directly funded by the general fund. Any questions? That was a long explanation.
Do attorneys need legal assistance?
Unfortunately.
Anything, Gary?
Part of doing business, it sounds like.
Do you have anything?
No.
I have a couple questions. When you talk about position control and possibly relating or ending in a new county policy due to inconsistency, it makes sense as a good business practice to do that. But my question about inconsistency, is it subjectiveness versus objectiveness when it comes to pay in class and up and down? Does this have to do with equity and equal pay, and is there a union impact and all that?
So I think it's all that. And that is why Human Resources Department gets involved in every single classification, just to make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's related to labor relations and everything else. So, and that's the system that we have in place. The department alone, per se, or the office cannot come with any changes in position control without having HR being part of that vetting process. So this is the result of that, and Human Resources has recommended you considering approval of this position. But also, we need to give a little more different parameters to HR, Human Resources, and hopefully the new position control policy will do that to apply that consistency.
Good, and that will assist with any gender gap.
Right.
Good. I know HR is all about that too. 3B, the financial vouchers. We'll get to that over this next week. And agenda item number 4, PHSS, approval of Mason County Community Service Public Health Memorandum of Understanding.
Yes, this is a proposal before you to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Mason County. And the intent of this MOU is to provide syringe services and harm reduction services in Mason County. I believe this is the first time that we have attempted with Mason County. And as you can see, the MOU has a short duration. And I tempted to think that this is somewhat of a pilot project with Mason County, but Shelley will correct me if that is the case.
Good, thank you.
And also this is not, the MOU does not have a cost component, because all those services that we provide to Mason County will be reimbursed by the Washington State Department of Health consolidated contract that we have with them. So it will be on a reimbursement basis. But Shelley can probably explain a little bit more as to what this MOU is.
And the duration.
Yes. So Mason County has been working for quite some time on developing their own syringe services exchange program. So they have a mobile exchange program that they are just starting up. And in our contract that we have for syringe services with Washington State Department of Health, we have a budget item for supplies within our consolidated contract. So essentially, we have additional supplies in our budget, and the state and Mason County both desire that we share those with Mason County to help them in implementing their program. This will be beneficial to Thurston County as well, because many people have to travel from Mason County sometimes to come to Thurston County syringe services, so they'll have some of their own. So essentially, we are able, via the state consolidated contract, to be able to provide some in-kind supplies, including syringes and wound care and fentanyl testing strips to Mason County.
Why the short duration?
Just because that is the current duration of our consolidated contract.
Oh,
so
I gotcha.
when
Is
we
the-
have
is the state-
when
okay,
we
gotcha.
renew our contract, then either we'll come back and this will request that this be continued as part of our regular amendment to our consolidated contract or our new consolidated contract, or the state may choose to directly include this allocation in their consolidated contract with Mason County. So
So what's the current end of our contract?
is June 30th and 19, yes. Yes. State contract, and then we'll be bringing that back to you for a renewal and approval again. So, and if you recall, our consolidated contract gets amended every 2 months. And if the amount increases that exceeds my authority, then I come to you and we request that. And that just has to do with different sources of funding that come to the state, because they also receive federal funds as well as grants, and sometimes there's increases, occasionally decreases, but that hasn't been the case for us in quite some time.
I want to make sure I understand the financial component of this. Ramiro mentioned something about reimbursing. I don't quite understand how what we're providing and how it's being funded.
Okay, so this request to come before you is authorization for us to have a memorandum of understanding with Mason County so that we can give some of our supplies in our consolidated contract that we receive for syringe services and share that with Mason County. So essentially, the State Department of Health in our consolidated contract provides all of the funding for us to purchase syringes and wound care supplies for persons who inject drugs that access our syringe services program to prevent disease. That's the real goal and intent of that program.
So rather than supplying Mason County as well, they're asking us to just funnel the same supplies to Mason County?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Because they're starting this new pilot program, and again, we have some excess supplies in ours, so that's why we have the ability to share with them. Question?
So, yes, if I understand right, then Thurston County bought these supplies. We've already purchased them. The state of Washington has already reimbursed us. We have more stuff than we can hand out in our syringe exchange program, and we're being asked to pass that along to Mason County. Is that accurate?
Yes, I believe that is accurate.
That's where I was going. Hang on, do you have anything else?
So if it's already a sunk cost, I understand. If we haven't bought the stuff yet, then I would have a whole lot more questions. I would have more questions for you as we look forward into the future, such as, had we not spent, if this is part of our consolidated contract, had the county not spent that money on syringe exchange, could we have used it for a different program within the county?
Typically, no. Under this particular program, the funds that the state receives for supplies are really designated exactly for that, exactly for the syringes, exactly
only be used for that
only
purpose.
for the supplies. Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Edwards?
And this has no workload increase to our FTEs?
No, it does not.
And I'm just curious, how come we're doing this from the Board of County Commissioners instead of the Board of Health?
Yeah.
Because
Is
the
it monetary
board must
transaction?
approve all interlocal agreements.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough.
Okay, I was wondering the same thing, but I was wondering if it was because of the timeline of the short duration. Anything else? I've got a couple questions. Is the, excuse me, any treatment sales tax money used for this?
No, sir.
No? Okay. And you mentioned, Shelley, fentanyl test strips.
Yes, that's
Well,
something that is included in our contract from the Department of Health as a supply that they provide to all syringe service programs in the state at no cost.
But what is it? I'm thinking you're going to do a litmus test or something. It tells me whether you have fentanyl in you or what.
No, it's not for in the person. It's not for use by the person to test themselves. It's to test the substance that they may have so that they can be informed and educated about what they may use to prevent overdose and death. It also helps us as a community by empowering those that may come in first contact with fentanyl. It would alert us to be able to respond as a community to that.
And what would we do with that information?
The main thing that we would do is be able to inform the public of the extreme dangers and risks if we have fentanyl in our community. As you may recall, back in the news about a year ago or so, fentanyl came to a particular community and there was massive overdose and deaths because people were not aware that the substance that they were using had been laced with fentanyl. And so the state has this pilot program where they're providing this. It was included actually in the governor's budget this year as well, to expand fentanyl strips and testing in syringe services programs throughout the state, and to expand that to other programs as well, so that we can prevent deaths by fentanyl.
So help me just understand the logistics of this from a public health and social policy, health policy. You have 10 people come in and deliver needles in the needle exchange. You take those 10 needles and you test them. What are you testing? How do you test it? And there's no recompense to the individual that might have turned in fentanyl?
Sure. No, our staff do not do the testing. We simply provide, or if we were to distribute fentanyl strips, we are not currently, but if we were to provide those strips, then people would be able to test themselves.
Test themselves, okay.
Test their own substance to see if it contained fentanyl.
Okay.
If it tested positive for fentanyl, then our hope is that those individuals would not use that substance because they would be informed that that could cause pretty instant death in very small doses.
But we wouldn't get that information back, so we still wouldn't know whether there's bad stuff out there until someone dies or overdoses.
What?
I'm not saying, I'm not arguing
Right.
it. It's good for them to
Yeah.
know that up front.
Yes.
But doesn't give us the information we need to come out with a major health alert to the community.
We would hope that we would be able to gain that information from people, because we have very strong relationships with those who access our syringe services program or enroll in our case management or are accessing treatment at our local clinics. This is a community that we are very close to, and we would hope that we would hear about that. And we often do hear about things, and we're able to share that information. EMS also sometimes comes across those situations, law enforcement does, and we're working together via the opioid task force to identify additional opportunities and ways in which we can share data and use different kinds of tools such as this to be able to better inform our community so that we can save lives. That's really the goal.
So it's almost like Crime Stoppers. They can call, say, oh my gosh, I just tested my stuff. And then I leave their name. You get the information you need.
They certainly could do that.
Okay.
Yes. We want to get ahead of get ahead of that, because we know how very lethal and dangerous it is. Even very, very trace amounts of fentanyl can have huge impact on a community that may use injection drugs or other drugs.
Thank you, now I understand. Anything? Anything?
Good.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner and county managers' items, and we'll get to that.
If I may,
Certainly.
it's not included in your agenda, but it will be added for your consideration next week. And this is for you to consider approving revisions to the procurement policy. So I'll have that also on the agenda setting next Tuesday morning for you to hear additional details related to the particular changes to the policy, which includes raising the limit as to what each office and department can go and secure services without coming to the board. Really, some of the proposed changes really is an attempt to streamline the process and also align to state law changes. And Robin can elaborate that in more detail.
So this is a time-driven item because one of the major changes in this policy is alignment with changes in federal law. And federal law requires any jurisdiction that accepts federal funding to have these certain guidance and restrictions outlined in their procurement policy. So we have to have this in place before the state auditor arrives in about 3 weeks.
Dun, dun,
It's a timely change to the policy, and I do apologize. We have been working on this for quite some time now to get it updated in time. But we took the opportunity, since we're opening it up anyway, to align the thresholds for going out to bid and for authority to approve a contract. We are aligning those with changes in state law that were made in 2016. This policy has not been reviewed for 4 or 5 years now. So we're aligning it to state law thresholds as well as federal. And we're also taking this opportunity to clarify what the board delegates to elected officials and department directors and the county manager. It's been through the review process with the Policy Review Committee. The company that we're contracting with to assist us in policy updates has made sure it aligns with best practices and current laws, and it's currently sitting with legal.
Good. Anything on that? Anything? Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Then we will adjourn that meeting.
Wait,
Was that it?
there's something missing here. There's like no proclamations.
Yeah. Don't say that, yeah.
We can probably find it here.
We'll adjourn the BoCC, then we go right into April 16th, the agenda for the TBD. And I'll turn this over to the president, Time Mentor.
Okay. All right. Morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director.
Okay, great. So 3:30 on April 16th, call the meeting to order. We'll have approval of agenda, approval of meeting minutes from March 19th. Opportunity for the public to address the board. Nobody knows of any issues, I would be guessing. So then item 3 is department items. 3A, Public Works, State of County Road System.
Yes, so we'll give a briefing on the road system itself, the condition of it, conditions of our roads, our pavement management overview. So you can see what is needed for us to keep the roads in good repair.
Okay. Anything, questions about
Nope.
that? Item B, road fund forecast and future state.
So this will be a conversation regarding what the current balance of the road fund is, what the impacts are of the levy shift and road diversion on the road fund into the future, and what some of those impacts are, and what some of the services that we will need to be looking at to making modifications to as a result of that.
Okay, any questions about that?
That'll be enlightening.
3C, Thurston County Transportation Benefit District funding options.
So this is a request from the board to give, again, a general overview of what a funded transportation benefit district could do for the county. There's specific areas for the transportation system with respect to preservation, safety, and technology that it was specifically established for, and then the funding options and some details as to what is councilmatic, what would need to go to the voters, what the revenue could be, estimated revenue generated.
Okay, questions about that?
No.
Those are the department items, and we adjourn.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
One question. Every once in a while, we get citizen input that it's, I don't know, they claim it's illegal or something.
I just asked about that too.
To
This all,
continue this
Yeah.
without funding or something. So I'm just wondering about the legality. Is there anything to that?
we have addressed that question in the past, the last couple of years. And the dissolution of the Transportation Benefit District. My understanding of state law is when the Transportation Benefit District meets the objective in which it was created. For instance, there was two paths, two different ways as to how a transportation benefit district can be formed. Some jurisdictions have taken the path of identifying the specific projects. In the specific projects, and the mission of the TBD at that point will be when those projects are completed. And that's how state law requires to do so. And it's the same on the approach that Thurston County took. In this case, the Transportation Benefit District for Thurston County was formed on the premise of operations and maintenance. So it's really to address the operation and maintenance needs of the roadway system. So the question referring is when that is going to be met and when the mission of the TBD will be accomplished. That's yet to be seen. So that's the premise in which a TBD can be dissolved, is when the objective in which the initial objective has been met, in which it was created, then the TBD will be dissolved. However, you as a Board of County Commissioners can dissolve this board at any time that you see fit.
I guess I just want to make sure we're working within the law, that we're not doing something that we shouldn't be doing, because that's kind of the allegation, I guess.
Yeah, I believe you are, and again, this question has been addressed in a couple of occasions on the last couple of years.
I have the same concern, and I asked the same questions to County Manager just last week.
Okay.
So that's, something we can address if it's brought up by the board or by a citizen.
We can, yes.
Okay, that's it for that. Thank you, Chairman.
10:03, we're going to push on just for another couple minutes, and we'll take a break. But thank you very little, Commissioner Menser, because when you mention Beetlejuice 3 times, he appears. You mentioned Proclamation, the next page is Proclamation. So thank you for that. Bicycle Commuter Month.
Yes.
Not that proclamations were a bad thing.
La Bonita Bomar, Clerk of the Board, you have one request for a proclamation in the month of May. This is both Bicycle Commuter Month. Intercity Transit staff member Duncan Green has presented this proclamation for several years, and he would like to have it for May. The first week in May would be May 7th. Our Chris Hawkins kind of is also teams up with him and bicycle over from the Lilly Public Health and Social Services Department.
How many May proclamations do we have on our?
20. Just kidding.
I was ready to believe that.
That's funny.
This is the
May's a
only
busy month, though.
request I have at this time.
Okay.
And Public Works will bring a proclamation before you in May, because I believe the second week in May is Public Works Week. And that's something you may consider as a series of events. And you will be, are you having the rodeo?
Do we get socks for that one?
So, no, I think you may have the opportunity to go to the Tilley campus and participate in what we call the rodeo. Is ROAD. And this is really is a competition that is it starts on the local level. It's a competition as to how Public Works staff maneuvers those heavy equipments, and depending who wins, they goes to the state competition, and that state competition, the winners goes to the national competition. And in fact, it was 2 years ago, the Public Works made it to the national competition. So we have a very skilled workforce related to Public Works staff that handles those. So you will really, if you have the time, hopefully you will, you have the opportunity to shotgun one of the snow plows, because it's a route, and the Public Works campus is part of the competition.
What day is that?
That will be third week in May. Thank you. I said the second. I stand corrected.
So you won't get socks, but you will get to wear an orange vest.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious, is this proclamation going to be with the Transportation Benefit District or the County Commission?
The bicycle?
Yeah.
No, that's the BoCC in May, the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay. I mean,
Will
sounds
there-
like it could be with the Board of Transportation, the Benefit District.
I mean, you could. Yeah, I mean, this is within your purview. Would you like to have a proclamation on the TBD?
One on each? I'm just proposing since it was offered.
Either way, sounds good to me. I don't have a preference.
It'd be the same day, so Chris only has to make one trip over from Lily Road.
There you go.
I mean, I guess the only reason to do the board is just there's greater attention and public. I don't want the bicycle commuter month to get.
Maybe consider having on both.
Yeah. Well,
If you get a chance, I'm sorry, were you done with that topic, that piece?
Well, that topic I am. I do have one other question for Jennifer.
Well, I'll just jump back then before we get too far from the
Am I
rodeo.
Am I too far from the rodeo? Okay, good.
No, because I'm going to talk about the rodeo.
Oh.
That was such a kick to go out with these guys.
Jennifer, you might comment.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Law. It was so fun to go out with them after years of emergency vehicle operations courses with law enforcement, all that fast driving, which was a lot of fun. Going out with these guys in these big, huge dadgum things, and they're going fast, they're not hitting cones. I'm thinking the skill was absolutely mind-blowing. And now I can see I can't even avoid a kitty without damaging my car. So I give them a lot of kudos for the skills that they have, and to make it to nationals was way, way impressive.
Yes, they're very, very talented. We go through ongoing training, ongoing safety training, and so this is a part of it. I mean, this is incorporated into the work that they do on a day-to-day basis, so it's a lot of value.
Yeah. So if you get a chance to do it, if he gets a chance to do it, you would love it, I think.
cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Might I ask just one other issue maybe for the Transportation Benefit District? We've been told in the past that especially trucks stopping at stop signs, stopping and taking off or something, damage the intersection a little more than regular traffic.
Okay.
And maybe even cars, I'm just
Okay.
wondering. Well, I've long been an advocate for yield signs in some locations, and it ties in both with the carbon footprint, saving fuel. I think that we could easily save 10% of our fuel consumption nationwide if we used more yield signs. We might also be able to prevent damage to the roadways, and I wonder if that wouldn't be worth you looking at some point and giving us a report.
We certainly could.
That possibility.
Certainly. We won't be prepared
No,
for April 16th, but we absolutely can.
Yeah,
do that.
someday in the future.
Sure.
Thank you.
Are you suggesting maybe we give them Opticom that'll turn the lights green? Not a
Well,
stop sign, but
maybe
traffic
for-
signal?
Maybe for bicycles.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Law, you've looked at this list. What?
Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm going to miss you. I'm
On
sorry.
proclamations, I was wondering, which week in May is the employee recognition?
So that will be another proclamation they may consider. Thank you. Is the Employee Appreciation Week, which is the first week in May.
Okay.
Public
Yeah,
service.
public service
week,
recognition.
Yeah.
And I have some options for you to honor your key players in the
I
county.
was just going to ask you what you were going to suggest. Okay. We'll save that then. The advisory boards and commissions, will that take long, you think?
No, it will not.
Let's knock that out then we'll take a break.
And today I have Carrie Hennon from Public Health and Social Services. This is a follow-up.
Please?
A follow-up on action that you just took regarding the public hearing on approving revisions to an ordinance. This is Karen.
Good morning.
Hi, Carrie.
I've been here many times recently talking about the TST Advisory Committee. So you recall you appointed a couple new members about a month ago. Then you considered and ultimately adopted a change to the county code, giving some flexibility on the size of the advisory committee. So instead of being a fixed number of 7, the language is now no fewer than 7, no more than 9, which now gives you the opportunity to appoint 0, 1, or 2 additional advisory committee members. So from the round of applications we did a couple months ago, there's 3 applications that remain. So I guess the question before you is, do you want to appoint up to 2 additional people? Of those 3, one of them didn't formally withdraw her application, but she used the word ambivalent about serving on the committee. So I guess my recommendation would be that if you want to move forward with appointing 2 people, that you would appoint the other 2. I have checked in with all of them. The other 2 continue to be interested. And I think you have materials in front of you.
We do. One of the ambivalent ones is one of these 3?
Yes. So the 3 remaining applicants were Bob Jones, Gina Thompson, and Regina McDougall. So just to be confusing, we have similar names. And so Regina said she is the one who wasn't maybe is not as interested. So Bob Jones
McDougall
and Gina Thompson continue to be very interested.
Okay. Just give us a real brief moment. Have you had a chance to look at these?
Yes.
I think these are the same applications we had in the past.
Yeah, we looked at them.
Yeah, we have.
As I recall, the whole point of adding people was we had an abundance of qualified candidates.
Yes.
So I would be,
there were a few objectives, but yes.
I would be in favor of
3
adding those 2.
And I would also.
Yeah, yes, well, yep, with Thompson and Jones.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll
Is
bring those
that-
items for your consideration next Tuesday.
Is that
Great.
acceptable?
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
And what else do you have, Law? Is that it? Okay.
Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
if I may, just got a message from staff. Monday, April 22nd is Earth Day. And in the past, the commission has considered having a proclamation related to Earth Day. So I will request for staff to prepare a proclamation for your consideration. So the proclamations are piling up, Commissioner Mensah.
I told you there was something missing.
You did it. Do you want some socks?
So the question is, would you like to have since Earth Day is on a Monday, it's the 22nd, and we'll have a meeting on the 23rd, I think it may be appropriate to have this proclamation next Tuesday.
The week before. Yeah, it's a light agenda anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so, and let's talk about
Okay.
quick and comment receive
That's
of
right.
proclamation. Okay.
This proclamation has many.
Uh-oh. Conferring.
No,
Anything else?
no, that's all I have for now.
All right, I'm going to color it 10:15. Let's be back 10:25, please. 10-minute break. All right, welcome back. We're going to continue on with the agenda setting work session, and we're now on the agenda part of PIO check-in, and I'm stretching it until PIO takes her seat and is ready to jump in. And oh, hello. I didn't stretch enough, apparently.
Good morning.
Just for the
Megan-
public, that's Public Information Officer, PIO.
Yes.
There you go. Yes. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. Good
Do you have anything
morning.
to start
Is
with?
that your report?
Nope.
Well done.
I'm waiting for.
Do you have anything to kick it off with or not? Do you want us to jump in? Okay, let's
Yeah,
jump in.
go ahead and jump in.
Do you have anything, Commissioner Menser?
So public information-wise, we've completed this part 2 of the Nisqually Watershed Plan, Thurston County Connections, and I thank the public information for helping us facilitate that. This one was a little more, from my perspective, active and exciting because I got to go, well, we did the introductory piece in the studio, but then we did the interviews at the Nisqually Watershed Billy Frank Jr. Center. Kevin Hansen did a demonstration on how an aquifer can fill a stream, kind of similar to what was done at the League of Women Voters program. And then I interviewed David Trout about what are the innovative aspects of our watershed plan. And we did part inside and part outside, and I thought it turned out okay. So thanks to Megan for that. We're also working on just trying to figure out snappier ways to put information out, like on my commissioner Facebook page, using TC Media for like basically taking little video clips if somebody can't listen or isn't inclined to listen to an hour-long meeting, pulling, you know, maybe a short piece out that we could then promote under an issue topic that might catch people's attention more because they're interested in that particular topic. So we're kind of experimenting with that. We did one, and we've got a second one that I'm looking at right now. So we'll ask for your help on that.
Great.
So video clips from sessions like this?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or like commissioners, like if Commissioner Edwards or I or Hutchings, like maybe kind of in our report, something that would be of interest that wouldn't have, you know, they wouldn't have known it from the agenda, piece it out and say, hey, look, we're,
No, that's a good idea.
so.
That's great. That's a great idea.
It's working.
Is it?
Yeah. I've gotten some notices on my computer the last 3 days. Where'd this come from?
Okay.
So
Thank you, Doug.
whatever you're doing, it is getting out.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, good.
Is that it?
Yep.
Gary?
Did you get into biosolids by any chance?
I haven't done biosolids yet, but that can be on our list.
And that topic didn't come up as far as the Nisqually River.
Oh, I don't think it did. You know, remember our previous discussion, we're trying to keep these connections shows a lot shorter. So we were trying to, and I had 2 different people to interview, so we really had just like 5 minutes with each one, and then together with the interspersal pieces to make a 15-minute segment. So I really didn't go too far afield from just, why are we doing this plan? I always like to, you know, keep it as basic for folks as possible because we get down in the weeds of a watershed plan. Some people don't even understand what that means. Why are we doing it? What's it for? What does it mean for me as a citizen that Thurston County is working on watershed plan? So we asked questions like that. We didn't get too far. I thought, didn't get too far afield.
I just wonder, because of the current interest in the biosolids, if there wasn't some little clip that we could do, but then they could click on that and find out a little more about why we're not too happy with the whole process that's taken place. Because it is a current event that everybody seems to be quite interested in. I know the board has taken some pretty aggressive action on trying to address it. And the citizen folks out there, and I know the tribe is very interested in it, so.
It'd be a good idea.
I don't know where it's at, and
We just have to think of a moment where, for example, you kind of gave an overview, because you've done that a couple times, and then we can
clip that in there
you can clip it out and then
somehow
have a
or
link
something.
to to the
And
letter
what it
that we
looks
sent.
like.
Yeah, or even some of the community meetings that were held and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So
Okay, it's definitely something we
if
can
we
do.
couldn't kind of include that in somehow, I don't know how to do it because I'm not a PIO person.
Right.
I know the PIO persons, they know.
Yeah, we'll put something together.
Okay.
That's a real good idea. I like that. Yeah, do you have anything, Gary, for Megan?
No, that was it.
That was it, okay. I'd like to add we always wonder, at least I always do, who is watching the clips, the TCM, who watches this, who reads our internal newsletter. And so when our piece came out last week, I think it was, the internal,
The Insider?
Insider, what? Yeah.
Insider.
And there was it was a short one I did on mental health. I was quite amazed, really, with a couple of responses I received from employees, and it was very touching.
Good.
Talking about mental health, and so my first thought was, they do read this because I don't know. So I know we have good circulation.
Yeah, we have pretty good readership for the Insider from our internal audience.
So I received some replies or feedback, and it was very touching, very good. And so I thank Brian for that too, because he was instrumental. And Brian and I are working on our TCM clip for Thurston Community Media. You have the County Connection for next month on mental health as well. And again, it's shorter, more action-packed rather than a 45 or 60-minute gig. When people go on the nod looking at that stuff. So it's going to be shorter and more impactful, I think. So we're looking forward to that. I think we do that next week.
Good.
Our taping. So he's doing a good job.
I'm glad the adjustments are working better for you
Yes.
guys. Yeah.
Do we have I know we weren't going to ask you about stats, but I mean, is it, the goal of making shorter Thurston County Connections was that more people might watch it. Is that, do we know if that's true yet, or?
I can tell you, and I can only tell you from the county's perspective how many people have viewed it on YouTube. We don't have numbers from TC Media. They don't have any way of capturing that.
I see.
So we don't know how many people are actually watching it on the channel or going to their video on demand.
Yeah.
They are changing systems, so hopefully that will change and we'll be able to get a little bit more analytics from them. But you've had 7 views of the part 2. No, part 2 was 35 views. I'm sorry, 35 for the second one.
Okay.
So
But that doesn't tell the story for those who have shared that.
It doesn't.
Because when
Yep.
it's shared, then
Yep.
and that doesn't capture the.
Yeah,
shared
so it
viewers.
really is hard to quantify how many people are watching it because we don't have the full picture. We just have a little snippet of what we can see
But isn't it far easier to embed a 15-minute video
completely.
into Facebook or into the county website or wherever
Yes.
you want to put it rather than an hour long?
Yes, and more people are
And
going to
more
watch
people
it.
likely to
35 is actually pretty good for a Thurston County connection.
Yeah,
So-
good job.
Yeah, at least from our YouTube.
Yeah, because
Analytics.
we put it up on my Facebook page, and we've had response, like
Lots of comments.
15 some responses to that there, so.
Yeah, and there's been shares and comments from the posting on the county Facebook as well. So we know people are looking at it. It just doesn't show it as well on our analytics.
So what is it that we can do to support PIO activities?
Keep on doing what you're doing.
Okay.
We appreciate you guys.
Oh, I thought she was going to say more money.
And I was going to start with that,
Well,
but she didn't bring it up. Good.
no, not yet.
All right. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
And you know where to find us. All right. Public hearings and briefing,
Nothing pending, Commissioner.
nothing pending. Good. Legislative update.
Let me go brief to give you a legislative update. Today, April 9th, is the next cutoff day where all the bills needs to be passed in committee, and eventually will make it to the floor, whether either the House or the Senate. As you know, we have 2 big elements related to money as part of our legislative agenda was to restore the court impact fees, as well as having a reimbursement for extraordinary costs related to indigent defense. The court impact fees were included, and this is $1,094,000 for 2019, $1,094,000 for 2020, and $1,094,000 for 2021. That request was included in the original governor's budget that was submitted to both the House and the Senate. The House version of the budget included those amounts. But the Senate version of the budget only included $750,000 of that request. So, but also on the governor's budget did not include the reimbursement for extraordinary costs for indigent defense, nor the House budget included. However, the Senate budget does include the reimbursement of extraordinary costs for indigent defense, which is about $430,000 for 1 year. So I believe Commissioner Messer and Commissioner Edwards have approached some of the legislators to see how they can close the gap between the House budget version and the Senate budget version. I believe the actual negotiations to the budget between the two houses will start next week. Deborah Manguia will be actively involved in that and will provide you an update as to how those are developed. Overall, it is a piece of good news for the county, because on the three versions, the governor, the House, and the Senate, there is some sort of a version of the initial request for the county, so that is a good good news. But as you know, the legislative process can change in a blink of an eye, and so we're going to be diligent to be having a watchful eye on this, how it evolves. Any questions on that?
I want to thank you for your work on that. Is there any date certain that we have Deborah coming in to brief us?
I think maybe after the legislative session is done, then I will ask her to give you a perspective. I think at this point she's busy
I'm
doing
sure
her
she
job.
is, yeah.
So
Okay.
certainly
Good.
that will be a report to you later on.
I didn't know if she was coming before then or not.
No,
Okay.
unless you want to hear anything specific from Deborah.
I don't. I just thought you were inferring that. But we'll wait till the end of session. Do you have anything further? Anything, Gary? Good, thank you for that. Now we're
No.
going on to commissioner items?
I have an update on several bills.
Oh,
if you
keep
don't
going. I
mind.
thought you were done. Oh, man.
No,
Okay.
this is just the beginning.
I'm sorry.
And we've been tracking several bills that may have an influence to the county. And again, this is just a snapshot of some of those bills. Senate Bill 5503, that is modifications on the on-site sewer systems. That has passed the Senate and the House and is heading to the governor. The county's position was neutral. And what it does is it really is put a little more restrictions as to how cities who has sewer services can obligate individuals on their septic to connect to sewers. So it put an emphasis that perhaps a replacement of a septic system within the service area of a sewer utility can still continue doing that if that they perceive to be appropriate. So that puts a little bit of, I believe, flexibility to those property owners who are on their septic system within the service of a sewer provider.
Oh, wow. Like
So-
a tangle wild.
Senate Bill 5505 does the stormwater fees for DOT projects. Our position was to oppose this. It passed the Senate and has gone to the House Transportation Committee, and I believe the House Transportation Committee just passed, almost unanimous. This has an influence to the county in the order of $220,000. And as you know, the stormwater fees, those are applied across the county, where all the property owners pay a stormwater fee, as well as the county, as owners of the roadway system. We pay towards this utility. Also, DOT pays for all the impervious surfaces they have in Thurston County as a fee. So what this bill does is put a higher threshold that we, the county, now needs to justify how we're going to be using that money. That has to be related to specific projects related to state highways. And that becomes a little more cumbersome because, as you know, stormwater is not just about, it doesn't stay within the states right away, in a way. It goes beyond that. So this is unfortunately how this is evolving. I had the opportunity to hear some of the testimony by the specific senator, and it was disappointed because obviously the state is behind this as to how they can curtail some of the stormwater fees across the state, not just in Thurston County, because the stormwater fees is applied to all the counties across the state. So that is moving forward. House Bill 1497, that's foundational public health. The governor signed that last year. I did have a chance to see some pictures. The Commissioner Messer was part of the signing ceremony, as well as Shelley
Really
Slaughter.
saw the top of my hair.
So
It was packed, and I was in the very back and obscured by people.
So this is a long time coming. I believe this bill has been in the works for at least 5 sessions, as I understand it. And so this is a good first step. It doesn't have the revenue associated with this bill, but certainly there is an attempt, at least on the governor's budget, to start addressing this issue. But at least this bill set the stage for future funding allocation, and that's important.
So there are funds not only in the governor's budget, the House budget came very close to the governor's budget. And from what I understood, the Senate budget is roughly half, and the portion of that that goes to local governments is restricted for specific uses in the Senate budget. So we are obviously advocating for the House budget that gives us more money and more flexibility.
So the governor's version of the budget for this could have a positive impact to $1,046,000 to the county on a yearly basis, and that is a good deal. Also, House Bill 1074, that raised the age to 21 for the purchase of tobacco and vaping products, and the governor also signed that into law last week. Senate bill, companion bill, Senate Bill 5986, that's tax and vapor and heated tobacco products, passed the Senate Rules Committee, and I don't believe is scheduled for a vote on the floor yet. Senate House Bill, Supplemental House Bill 1087, that's a trust fund for healthcare for employees, that has passed the House and is moving to the Senate. Substitute Senate Bill 5163, that's related to the wrongful death. As you may know, it eliminates the liability, eliminates restrictions to liability related to wrongful death, particularly when local jurisdictions are involved with that. And I provide you some feedback as to how much that could probably impact the county, not necessarily directly to the county, perhaps to our fees that we pay to our risk pool that covers our insurance. Passed the Senate and is heading to the House, and apparently there is support to this bill, as I understand it. Substitute Senate Bill 5380, the opioid use disorder treatment, has passed the Senate, is moving to the House. Let me know if you need additional information on each one of those, please. Substitute Senate Bill 5720, that's the treatment and education for juveniles while in custody, has passed the Senate and is moving to the House. We oppose the bill because it put, another unfunded mandate to our juvenile courts. Substitute Senate Bill 5063, that's the prepaid postage stamps for all election ballots, is in support, has passed the Senate and is moving to the House, and I believe that has a good chance to become into law. And then it's funded. So House Bill 1441, that's financing for local infrastructure, has passed the House and moving to the Senate. What it does is create a board as to how individual local jurisdictions can access additional funding through bond issuance and other strategies. And I believe that is moving forward as well. The substitute Senate Bill 5812, that's related to affordable housing, particularly related to ADUs and the UGA area, has passed the Senate and is moving to the House. The House has introduced some amendments to this bill. We reviewed those amendments yesterday and provided some feedback to Deborah as to how perhaps she can introduce some of the our thoughts related to that. The amendments that was introduced at the House reduces the traffic impact fees that we can collect related to that, which is, from the budget point of view, has an impact to the county. And that was some of the concerns that we had. Senate House Bill 1667, that's related to the public records reporting. That is passed the House and moving to the Senate. And again, this bill, what it does is gives a little more flexibility to local jurisdictions as to how we report on an annual basis all the public records that we receive during the year. That's a welcome relief, at least from my point of view. House Bill 1743, prevailing wages. The House and Senate has passed and is moving to the governor to sign this bill. This, again, is a correction from a prevailing wages bill that passed last year. And what this changes on House Bill 1743 is taking the prevailing wages requirements out of affordable housing, shelters, and homeless approach. So it really is a relief on that. Substitute Senate Bill 5272, that's related to the sales tax, an increase of 0.1% for 911. And that has passed the Senate, is moving to the House, and I believe has a good chance to pass. And lastly, but not least, the House Bill 1829, that's the Veterans Assistance Levy, allows you to collect outside of the limits of the levy for the Veterans Assistance. Has passed the House, is moving to the Senate, and I believe the Rules Committee on the Senate has passed this and has a good chance to move on. Last week, Robin gave you a perspective as to what the financial impact will have to the county, and I can remember the number. Is a positive $400,000 impact to the general fund. And that's my report, legislative report.
On the $220,000, the cost to the county on Senate Bill 5505, is that something we're going to have to pay, or we're just not going to get?
We're just not going to get. If we get it, it will require a lot more work to get the full amount.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate because the state already has a reduction on the stormwater fees because they don't pay a full freight. It's a reduction they pay out of the stormwater fees. And yet, even on the reduction, they're trying to put some hurdles as to how we can collect the money. Because at the end, we are the ones responsible for managing the stormwater in the county. And again, the stormwater doesn't see any boundaries related to whose right-of-way is. So
I guess the only reason I'm asking that question, and we've got the Summit Lake issue and the Long Lake issue, does it have anything to do with us being able to put in settling ponds or help us be able to put in settling ponds before that water goes into the water body?
And I'll touch base on the next item on the public testimony related to Mr. Carmen's letter related to stormwater utility.
Then on substitute Senate Bill 5063 on the postage, and you said that comes with funding. Does that address the ballot box issue at all, or was it just postage?
No, just
only
postage.
the postage.
Okay. And on 5812 on the ADUs, where are we at on changing our own ADU zoning requirements or whatever it was? Aren't we doing something as well?
Yeah, and in fact, that was part of the briefing that you received. Unfortunately, you were not part of that briefing.
Oh, okay, okay. I'll get it from staff then. Okay. And then on the statewide 911, is that a statewide sales tax?
Yes.
Or just for Thurston?
No,
Okay,
what
so
allows is flexibility, and
Okay.
it does not take away the voters' approval process. What it allows
Okay.
is just raise the ceiling of how those jurisdictions will apply. But also in here, it puts also an additional restriction to counties that have a population over 1.5 million, which applies to only King County, to make sure they have an interlocal agreement as to how the funding can be distributed among the different jurisdictions. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
that's my legislative report, Commissioners.
Do you have anything regarding that? Okay. Thank you. That takes us to commissioner items. And what I'd like to do is the number 2, the public testimony, is that related to Long Lake Management?
Yep. Yep.
Good. Can we start with that one then? Because we had Doug Carmen here.
Yeah, sure,
all
absolutely.
day
Yeah.
or all morning.
So all of you, hopefully you had the chance to review that letter. So let me parcel the response by paragraphs, okay? And let me have you look at paragraph number 2. And it speaks about the Thurston County does not contribute to the LMD. In a way, that's the message. So we passed an ordinance 12829 that provides the lake management districts reduce pay of the stormwater fees by 50%. So that is a positive impact to the LMD of $34,000 a year. So there is a contribution from the county related to the LMDs by allowing all the residents associated with the Long Lake Management District that has an impact of $34,000. So I'd like to address that in those terms.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? How is it, what's the mechanism that
so
benefits
it was
them?
on the ordinance 12829. That is the Stormwater Fee Ordinance that the board reduced the fees in so many different areas of the county, including the state's right of way and the county's right of way. And there's other elements, including on that reduction of fee was the Lake Management District. All the members within the Lake Management District don't pay 100% of the stormwater fees. They pay 50% of that. So that is a positive impact to all the residents on the Lake Management District of $34,000 a year.
And that's for all lake management districts?
Yeah.
No. Oh, wait a minute. You're shaking your head. Yes. Is it specifically a benefit of $34,000 to the Long Lake?
To the residents
Of
Long Lake Management District.
So it's just a benefit. That's the dollar amount of benefit to them. Is that what you're saying?
That's the dollar amount, the impact of the 50% reduction on their fees.
To Long Lake activity.
To the individuals who resides within the boundaries of the
Okay,
Long Lake
I was just trying to
Management
clarify
District. Yeah.
Okay.
So
They
for
collectively receive that.
Right. So for
Okay.
instance, if a property owner who lives across the street from an individual who lives within the Lake Management District, the individual of the Lake Management District, just to talking purposes, may pay only $50 a year. Across the street, the property owner who does not live within the district will pay $100.
Okay.
And that is stated on ordinance 12829.
So that's a benefit to each person living or each property owner within the district rather than a benefit to the management district as an entity.
But the ordinance speaks about providing surface water conveyance systems, so it's an acknowledgement of the water contributions of surface water. And I'll be more than happy to give you copies of that ordinance. And I believe Mr. Carmen have access to the ordinance online. So moving on to the next item on Mr. Carmen's letter, it speaks about the Thurston County owns 11 rights-of-way easements and properties directly, and this is quote, directly dump stormwater into Long Lake. That's not necessarily accurate. All the stormwater outfalls that comes from the county's right-of-way are permitted by the Department of Ecology. In all the stormwater conveyance, we have to implement best management practices, BMPs. And that includes a series of ponds. We have filtration swales before it leads to Long Lake. So there is not a direct contribution from any of the counties right away to Long Lake without actually putting some treatment facilities along the way. Also, on the same paragraph is a reference that perhaps the Lake Management District has to manage those pollutants as a result of the direct contribution from the counties right away. From staff's point of view, we don't believe there is an actual program in the Lake Management District that actually deals with pollutant reduction and discharge. So the next paragraph, Mr. Carmen adds the additional pollutants, PCPs, and it's really related to a location on Mullen Road. And if you travel Mullen Road, that's the depression that goes under the railroad tracks. And again, that's a little bit far away from Long Lake. If you see the overall hydrology of the area, the outfall of this particular roadway goes through many wetlands and soils before it goes into Long Lake. And as a best management practice, that's the best way to remove pollutants from the roadway through soils, wetlands, and so on. So again, there is no direct contribution. And to our knowledge, I don't think there has been any particular data that we have found on Long Lake that actually deals with the PCPs as stated in Mr. Carmen's letter. The next item, and this is just highlights of the letter that I want to make sure that I address some of the processes. There is a statement that perhaps we don't test any water quality on the lake. And we do have a program, and that's from Public Health as we test the water in Summit Lake, where we, algae emergency surface. We do have periodic water testing in Long Lake just to make sure it doesn't present a public health issue. So lastly, related to the $15,000 request on an annual basis, staff perceives the reduction on the contribution the Lake Management District residents have of $34,000 on an annual basis goes beyond the $15,000. And also lastly, from staff's perspective, I don't think the stormwater fee, it will be an appropriate funding to subsidize the Lake Management District at this point.
I don't think we have page 2.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking for another page here, too.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That was a clerical mistake. I can make copies.
No.
Uh,
Yeah.
I thought maybe I was supposed to bring my own.
Whitney has. Can you get Whitney? I apologize to that. I was just going on my own ramblings.
So real quick on the bottom of number 3.
Oh, the only page that you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the only page we have, yes.
I don't have the rest of the paragraph, but I'm guessing, so this idea about we pay higher taxes, this came up at Summit Lake public hearing as well, that they were saying, well, we pay 1.6 multiplier to our property tax assessment. And therefore, since we're paying 60% more taxes, obviously you've got the resources to do water testing for us. We don't need a special use district. That was the argument that was made by many people at Summit Lake. And I'm seeing the same.
The same argument here.
I'm guessing that the rest of this paragraph makes the same argument.
No, I believe you're correct, because Mr. Carmen makes the argument that perhaps it was the obligation of the county to begin with to deal with the water quality of the lake.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I guess we're looking for another page right now.
I am sorry. I'm just going on my own little merry way.
That's okay. I guess what I'm wondering about here, this is a letter, a correspondence from the Lake Long Lake Management District Steering Committee, I think, right? So it's not just Mr. Carmen, it's...
Well,
it's-
I refer to Mr. Carmen because
Right,
he submitted.
Right,
Yeah.
I realize that.
Yeah.
But are we going to, when this is also, we have a little discussion here, I don't know what's going to come of it, but are you going to put these facts in a written response
Yeah.
back to those folks so
Yeah.
they can digest this? And,
Absolutely.
and-
Yeah, well,
okay, that's
this
all I
is
was
just give you an
wondering.
indication how I'm planning to
Yeah,
respond.
yeah, good, okay,
And certainly we'll formalize that via a letter.
thank you.
That's a
yeah.
good point of clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, just give you my perspective at this
Yeah,
point.
okay, good.
Thank you.
And this afternoon, I will address in general terms the public testimony, and I will follow up that we will formally respond, well, to the Lake Management District, Mr. Carmen, Chairman,
Yes,
on those
Okay.
terms. But just want to give you the gist of the response.
yep, good,
Yeah.
okay.
So my question on that was there's two groups of people who are claiming that we collect more taxes, but we don't do anything with it. Like, there's no extra burden. Like he says specifically on page 2, increase taxes without having any increased burden. So I'm just curious why do we collect 60% more property tax from a lakeshore if we're not, I mean, what's that money going towards?
So that's the purview of the assessor, how he values property across the county. And I will be more than happy to have a briefing with the assessor for him to explain his methodology as to how he goes about.
Okay, so it's not that they're valued and then they're paying some kind of premium. That's just a way to get to value.
Yeah, and I can probably.
Okay, well then that argument doesn't make
Just for
sense.
you're on a lake, you know.
Because in the same argument will be somebody who has a waterfront on the Sound, and perhaps somebody who may live in a specific area of the county may pay more of the property who lives perhaps just across the street.
Someone with a mountain view gets
No, I
a
get it.
higher
They were
value.
making it sound like it was some kind of a premium on
it's-
top of the
no.
overall
It-
valuation. You're saying that it's actually part of the calculation to get to the right valuation
I
because
think
we know
it's really-
waterfront property is more valuable.
Is
Got it.
It's related to lakefront property and lake access.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Now what?
And are you going on with the rest of the paragraphs, or?
I think I covered all of them.
You covered everything, okay.
I can go back and.
No, that's fine.
So what is the next step then? A letter?
So the next step I will highlight, because Mr. Carmen presented this to you a couple of weeks ago, I will highlight this afternoon in general terms. And then also I will highlight this afternoon for the public that we will prepare a formal response, and that will be submitted to Mr. Carmen as the chairman of the Lake Management District Steering Committee in a week or so.
So I'm presuming, excuse me, Assessor Stephen Drew is aware of this contention?
I don't believe so.
Can we make him aware of it?
Certainly, I can probably forward a letter to.
Just so there's no surprises no matter which way this goes. And our legal's on top of it as well, I'm
Right.
sure.
Right.
Okay. Anything further, Ty?
No.
Gary? No. All right. Thank you.
So the next time that they have public testimony that we're on the subject, if I may.
Yes.
And it's related to a letter that you received from Miss Michelle Hopkins, and it's related to the biosolids.
Just give me a quick
And
moment.
It's right here.
Oh, we got that, yeah.
so I'm planning to respond in terms of that you have taken, the board has taken a proactive action to the extent as that you sent a letter to U.S. Fish and Wildlife related to this particular permit of the biosolids. So there's a brief letter, we submitted the letter, all of you reviewed this letter, we submitted yesterday. And but let me read that for the public's acknowledgement. And this is addressed to Mr. Brad Thompson. He is the acting state supervisor for the Washington Fish and Wildlife.
Federal.
It's federal,
Yeah.
Fish and Wildlife. Thank you. This is Mr. Thompson. Attached, please find copies of 2 letters submitted by to the Washington State Department of Ecology, DOE, from the Thurston County Board of Health and Thurston County Environmental Health Division Director regarding the Fire Mountain Farms biosolid applications in Mid-Mountain site located at 19724 128th Avenue Southeast in Yelm, Washington. As stated in our letters, we have significant concerns about the proposal due to the proximity of the site to the Nisqually River and the potential negative impacts to our land and water quality. We strongly believe the environmental impacts of these projects have not been adequately evaluated or fully addressed by the applicant or DOE. Our concerns lie with the quality of the biosolids materials and the potential seepage of contaminants such as drugs, priority pollutants, hazardous materials, and other chemicals in our groundwater and the Nisqually River. This could also harm the flora and fauna, including the threatened and endangered species such as the Chinook salmon, the Nisqually steelhead, and the Masaima pocket gopher with irreparable results. We urge you to take an active role in reviewing this project application and request DOE to withdraw their SEPA determination of no significance. It is critical this project to be prevented from moving forward until the environmental conditions at the proposed site and downstream are fully evaluated. We appreciate your prompt attention to this matter. Signed by the Board of County Commissioners. That's how I'm planning to respond to Ms. Hopkins' testimony.
Go ahead.
Any questions on that?
The only question I have is the statement here. We've heard this a couple times now that, and I'll just verbatim, this board has the authority under the Growth Management Act to amend the docket in order to start the process to revise the code. Please exercise your legislative authority. I thought we'd already looked into that, and we don't have the ability to have oversight on this particular issue.
So you do have the authority to amend the docket. You do have the authority to add items to the docket. The conversation was, is that going to be a fruitful exercise? Because under state law, you don't have the authority to change the land use for biosolids. So really that it is. Yeah, you do have the authority to amend the docket as you go through every year. But if the state law doesn't give the board to change the land use, it's going to be a year's worth of fruitless exercise to amend something that we will not be able to implement.
Yeah, we wouldn't benefit from it
No.
anyway.
And
Are you going to make that clear to this party?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you have anything, Ty?
No, good.
So we can go through the exercise and process of amending as the state pats us on the head. Oh, that's so cute. But you don't have any authority to do anything with it. So it's all for naught.
Yeah.
Okay, but we've taken a pretty doggone good stand, and citizens have helped us start the ball rolling. I like the letter. Thank you.
And the last
good
letter, the last letter that you received is from Mr. Michael Stedman, and he was representing the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And I believe you can read that letter. How I'm planning to respond is I attended the SWAC meeting last week, where I had the opportunity to have a conversation with all the board members. I believe, and I received some feedback that perhaps that was a very fruitful conversation. And anyways, that's what I'm planning how to resolve or respond to his testimony this afternoon.
Bless you. Did that go well?
Yes, and I received some feedback that it went well, but
Oh,
again,
good.
yeah.
That was kind of tenuous.
Yeah, it was good conversation. I think they appreciated the opportunity for me to go there, listen to their concerns, and trying to find ways as to how we need to move forward.
Good. Ty, anything? Gary?
Did we just, is there just a portion of that letter as well?
Yes.
It's
all
just
I
one
got.
pager. That one's just one page.
Okay.
Okay, that takes care of public testimony follow-up. How about courthouse project?
Yes, attached to your is this, and I hope it was printed two-sided.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So as a result of receiving public testimony leading to the April 23rd public hearing related to a potential action of the board to put this particular measure before the voters, I received an email from an individual named Larry Jefferson. And through his testimony, or his written testimony, he asked for you to consider appointing a certain individual to be for the committee related to the this particular ballot measure, potential ballot measure. So I had a conversation with Elizabeth because this came as a surprise to me. Obviously, I've never been going through this ballot measure for this very important process, so always I look with our attorneys. So he'll respond back. In fact, there is a requirement that if the Board of County Commissioners decide to put this ballot measure to the voters, whatever you choose to do, that you do have to appoint a committee for and against the ballot measure. And that appointment needs to be done, and this is the deadlines I'm explaining to you. So there is a very tight timeline. And also, Elizabeth said that if, for instance, if the commissioners don't have any avenue as to select individuals they can serve in the against committee, then there's a way as to how you can probably publicly advertise that. There is nothing that you can do at this point because you have not taken that action yet. But I'd just like to bring to your attention that is something that we need to facilitate for you to make a decision in appointing a for and against committee, because those committees need to be formulating a statement for or against in any particular ballot measure.
It's just showing me on this chart that if we waited to the last minute, then they only have a week to submit their statement.
So that's what I'm bringing this to your attention.
Right.
So
If we were using that deadline.
Right. So I will bring this item again next week, and at least to formulate a plan as to how, in the event, this is in the event that you may take an affirmative action as to how you would like to proceed with those requirements.
Do you have anything, Gary?
Robin had something.
Go ahead, Robin.
Just curious again, what is the last possible date that the board can notify the auditor that they would want something on the August ballot?
May 10th.
May 10th.
So May 10th is not only the date to appoint this committee, but also the drop dead date to say if it's going on the ballot.
So there is also within the law, as I understand it, if for any reason the commissioners are not in the position, for whatever reasons, to appoint those committees, is the obligation of the auditor to go ahead and secure that as well.
Right.
Yeah. So that is the next step. The next step is
So
coming up.
who was suggested as the person?
Mr. Jefferson, Larry
Jeffers.
Jefferson, he's a local attorney, I believe, and he is asking for you to consider an appointment to Mr. Trevor Zendel.
And Trevor is the leader of the campaign
He is
committee.
the chairperson of the new courthouse campaign committee. Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand this up front. Mr. Jefferson says that we are required by law to appoint a for and against committee. And have we validated that's true?
Yes, Elizabeth,
Okay.
validated with Elizabeth that.
Okay, and does it mention, I just have a couple of slides, the size of the committee? Do they have to be equal sizes?
Three,
It's right here
maximum
on the
three.
back
Oh,
here.
it's on the back of this dadgum
It's
thing?
a
Yeah.
maximum 3.
You can go
Oh,
1 to 3.
max of 3, okay. And is there the vetting process? Or we just take applications and pick, or, well, we don't know?
And that's what I'd like to probably follow up with you as to how you would like to proceed on
Okay,
this. It's really whether you like to advertise receive applications, review. It really is within your purview, as I understand it, how you like to appoint those committees and who will be part of that.
All right, go ahead, Gary.
I guess my concern is that, again, we're kind of doing a hurry up for, I mean, we don't have a lot of time to do this. And I just think that hurry up doesn't work good with the public. I'm waiting kind of for, I know we're getting some kind of a poll back at some point from our public information people, I think, pretty
Right.
quick.
The surveys will be completed in the next 2 days.
In the next few days?
Is done?
Is that on? Okay. So we received an update from Stuart this morning. He's received 990 responses so far. The goal was 600. And so it's going to be a really good representative sample. And so his intention was to close it today sometime between 10 and noon this morning. So it's going to be closed today. So we should be getting responses pretty soon.
Of those are all phone calls that they made to individuals, or is this through social media? How is this?
So it's both. One of them was the telephone survey, where they did the random sampling and they called the people on the telephone to get their responses. And then the other was a random sampling that they sent letters out to with a certain passcode to go in and do an online survey. So they used two opportunities to reach out.
Okay. So when are we going to get the word on kind of what the sense of the community is?
Pretty soon. I don't know the
Pretty
exact
soon,
date, but if he closes it today,
I think we
They'll
have a
work on it.
project meeting next week, and I believe that is going to be at least having an initial result, because they need to go statistically valid, whatever, they need to go through a
Validate it,
process
yeah.
to give you a good perspective,
I guess my concern has been and maybe I'll just ask this question, maybe Robin knows this with the bond person. What's the total cost of this project? Have we got to that point yet? I mean, we've got what we could afford, apparently. So we know, I mean, what happens do you ever figure in cost overruns? Do you figure out the whole debt process and interest paid over the 30-year period or 25-year period? Do you end up with a total amount? I mean, like a citizen goes to a car dealer and buys a $40,000 car on credit. The salespeople almost never tell them, well, if you finance this with us, it's going to cost you $58,000 or whatever it's going to be, depending on the interest rate and stuff. So I want to be very truthful with the public. So, okay, the project is expected to be this much. Total payoff to the taxpayers is this much. So do we know any of those figures yet at this point in time?
Yeah, and that's part of in the ordinance
Yeah.
outlines the request. And
Yeah,
it's-
okay.
It's 47 cents per 1,000.
Yes. Okay.
And we have frequently asked questions from Megan that I cannot find.
And that might cover that total number and
Yes,
stuff
and
that I'm referring to.
it takes it takes the request and apply to the median house price in the county.
So what that doesn't do, though, that gives us an estimate of how much we're going to raise with the levy increase. What that doesn't do is get to your question about total price of project if you were to add all the interest that we would pay over time
Yeah,
in the bonds,
Yeah,
when we issue the bonds.
right.
So I can give you an estimate on if we issue 230 million in bonds and they're 23-year bonds at an interest rate of approximately 4%, I can do the math and tell you how much the interest will be over time. We don't have a precise number because we won't sell the bonds for probably 2 years, and we don't know exactly what the interest rate's going to be
Sure.
at that time. We're still in early stages of design of the project, so we don't know precisely what the project will cost. We know we want to have an upper limit of 250 million that the levy will cover. I can give you estimates with certain assumptions, but what I can't tell you is a precise amount.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we could know the exact
Exactly.
dollar amount.
Yeah, and that's what probably the exercise our bond council went through just to make sure we had what we call a financial stress test.
Okay.
As to what that is, considering $250 million, and the proposal in the ordinance does that without absorbing all the capacity of the $1.80 that you have. So, and that's what it does. So to answer your question, Commissioner, the proposal, considering a median house price in Thurston County of $275,000, that equates to $12 a month. The
For
request.
23 years or 30 years or whatever it is.
Whatever.
right?
25
years. That's
25.
You used the term
That's
20.
a bond.
You said 23
Well,
or
I'm
something.
thinking that we may issue a bond, a 23-year bond is, I think, at this time, given the stress test that our bond advisor
Oh,
did.
okay.
If we if the voters pass the levy lift, and we collect the first 2 years and pay for costs with that revenue, and we issue a bond 2 years in, because you want to spend it when you get it. There are spend down rules associated with bond issue. Then we would only issue a 23-year bond so that we are only making bond payments within the years that we have the levy income.
I guess where I'm kind of going with this whole thing is we've kind of all agreed, I think, this board has agreed that we need to do something. We haven't agreed on maybe exactly what to do, but we do agree that we need to do something here at the courthouse because we're in dire need. My fear is if we go too fast, if the public's not informed adequately, and the public, because of that, votes this down, we're going to be stuck for, I don't know, 5 years before we can actually move forward again with another proposal, without causing a revolt or something. That's why I want to be so cautious about how we proceed, because if we're going to do it and we have the ability to sell a program to the public, I don't know what the big rush is. Because if we rush into it and fail, then we're really delayed. If we hit the pause button at anywhere along where we're going, we can continue to use all the professional information that we've acquired, maybe the polling, everything. We'd still be able to use it all. Where 5 years down the road, maybe not. Maybe it's all old stuff
Dated.
and just doesn't pan out anymore. So that's kind of my concern, is that we do it right. And I've never seen a rush job done right. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
So that's all.
Comments or reply?
I agree with everything you just said. I guess I would, the analogy of hitting the pause button, I don't want to hit the pause button, but I want to move in, I want to keep moving in a way, but the logical conclusion of that process, taking in mind everything you just said, may not be the earliest possible date, if that makes sense.
Well, that's kind of what I don't know. I mean, I know we're trying to do something coming in August.
Yeah, and it's
Boy,
gonna be
it's
hard.
pushing it, I think. But,
So-
I mean, here, and then maybe just one other thing. On this committee that we're expected to appoint, apparently, which I had no knowledge about. So we're going to take recommendations from citizens or put out applications or something for a group for and a group against. And they're going to come up with some type of verbiage that's going to be in the voters pamphlet. And so do we pick the smartest people for the for and the dumbest people for the against or something? And that's the way we manipulate it? I don't know. I'm just.
That would get us in
Okay.
trouble with the
It's just kind of
PDC.
catching me off guard on this whole thing.
That's why I asked
no,
about the vetting,
no.
hang on,
Yeah.
hang on. That's why I asked about the vetting process, who selects these people on there for the same dubious contrivances, but I agree with you also, something needs to be done. I agree with you, Ty, hitting the pause button is not an option for me. I don't want to kick it down the road because the material gets dated, information gets dated. It's not, in my opinion, fiscally wise to do that with the amount of just repair, not maintenance, but repair going into the building. It's not fiscally sound for the county, not safe or adequate for the citizens, nor is it safe for the employees, in my opinion. So I'm not in favor of putting the pause, but what we do is keep moving forward, get as much information out as we can to inform the public, and they're going to say yes or no. But we push rather than just pause. So County Manager, I've been holding you up. Go ahead.
In the legal notice announcing the public hearing for April 23rd gives you more flexibility. Includes the August special election, includes the November general election, and also includes the February special election. So each of those obviously had different deadlines as to when this committee needs to be submitted and also when the proposal needs to be submitted to the others. If you choose to go in the November general election, obviously the deadlines are August 6th. If you choose to go on the February election, that deadline also extends. So that is also for me, was very important to make sure that you have as much flexibility before you can make a decision.
One of the comments that was made when we were last discussing this was about the differences between August, November, and February related to who else is on the ballot and what the cost sharing is. And so I didn't have a sense of, I thought I understood Mary Hall to say February would be the most expensive option for us based on the election cost, but I don't have a sense of what the scale of that is. How much does it cost to run an election by yourself without sharing it with cities? And is that significant enough that we should be worried about it, or?
I can probably get the numbers for you. But certainly that was the statement Mary Hall, the county auditor, made. Because if you go solo in an election, you bear most of the costs. But I can get what that is.
Well, it's just something we need to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that it's going to be paramount consideration given everything else we're trying to balance, but it's certainly something we need to know.
It is tens of thousands of dollars. It's less than 100, but it's more than 10.
Okay.
And
I'll
get a
give you
better-
the number to give you a good sense.
Go ahead.
And I believe that fluctuates depending on what else might be put on the
That is
ballot
correct.
by what
That's
other
correct.
entity.
That's exactly
So,
right.
but regardless of what the cost is down the road, my goal is that something, if we get shot down at the election site, then we are really behind the eight ball. It's going to be a while. And all those things that you mentioned are still in play.
Right.
I know about a year and I'm going to say a year and a half ago, I had asked at one of our meetings involved with the courthouse that had we considered the financial impact, I guess, of outfits like Amazon on our West Side Mall, because even a year and a half ago, the writing was on the wall, malls are closing. And did we look at that as a potential site? But we did not. For whatever reason, we didn't. And I still think there are other options, is why I'm not, now we voted on this, we've already voted on it. I'm not whining, I'm just stating my case, kind of, that I think we're missing the boat on some potential locations yet that might come up, because if that mall goes under, what's going to be the anchor for that mall? And at that mall, we've got adequate parking, infrastructure, ingress, egress, transit. We've got everything there. So I'm just kind of rehashing something I've already mentioned before. But again, I want the public to have the best choice possible, not a bad choice and a worse choice or something like that. I'm trying to come up with something that makes sense to the public. Again, I'm referring back to, I don't know if it has to do with the demographic each one of us represent. I'm hearing everything against doing this. That says he's hearing kind of from both sides, and you're hearing, you know, from maybe younger folks about why we should do it. So I just, and when that comes down to the vote by the public, I don't want to see this be put on the ballot and fail if we have an opportunity to put a better product on the ballot by waiting, and whether we pause or not, or delay and we end up in the February ballot, and that gives us a better chance. I really don't think tens of thousands of dollars is a good enough reason not to delay out there farther, because we're talking about 500,000 by the time you do your debt servicing and pay the interest and plus the project and everything. So I think that's a minimal amount of money to be spent in reaching a conclusion that might be better that the citizens would participate in, a little better. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just, you know,
Well,
I've expressed my concerns, as you guys have, and that's the democratic process. I'm just concerned about what might happen in the end.
And as I said, I agree with a lot of your, and I applaud your foresight and watching out for the taxpayers. But some of the issue brought up, like the Capitol Malls, not germane to this discussion now. It may years down the road, but it's not going to happen before we get this thing off the ground. Potentially, it's all potential, hypothetical. And what the citizens are going to think is, I'm presuming, this is the way I think, what's in it for me? How's it going to impact me financially? And do I really need to do this? And once we get that information out, then they ultimately decide. And if it's yes, we progress. If it's no, I think it's at our detriment, but it's a no. But I think it's reasonable to move on. The old adage, you know, good things come to people who wait, might be just that, an old adage. Might be good things to come to people who move and act and empower the citizens to decide what you want.
I'll just say that in every, the education is paramount, because in every single, in every single conversation I've had about this, and you know, we had 20 people at my coffee thing, and I've talked to just numerous groups, not a single person has argued with me about, once they heard my pitch, has argued about the need. Nobody has continued to argue that you shouldn't be building this, or you shouldn't be addressing the courthouse need. You know, but that's not where they came into the conversation thinking. But the argument, I think, the case to be made for addressing this is compelling once people hear the information. You know, and you can quibble then about where to do it and how to do it and how much to spend, and you know, all the stuff that you're talking about are definitely more difficult questions. But I think if we focus on educating folks about why we're moving forward with this, it is a pretty hard argument to combat, and that's why all three of us on that level are agreed.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to keep our eye on the ball.
Do you know where the cities are in adopting resolutions of their own?
Well,
in support or not?
Well, it will be predicated whether when you take an action or not.
Okay.
Put on the ballot.
Not based on our resolution, but based on the decision. What did you just say?
Well,
On the ballot.
predicated whether you make a decision to put this on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you decide to do or not. So at that point, then, because that's an official statement by the commissioners
Okay.
to move forward with the next steps, and at that point, the cities will consider passing a resolution in support if they choose to do so. We have gone out already to the 3 cities, and I'm scheduled to go to Rainier, Tenaya, and Bucota as well. And we're going to just give an informational presentation about the need and about the project.
And are we going with you on the west?
No, but you're more than welcome.
Well, I would attend.
Yeah. So I'll give you some dates.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that, Ty?
I guess I don't, kind of what Commissioner Edwards said, I might have phrased it a little different, but,
Yeah.
I had the same question about, it seems strange that the entity placing on the ballot then controls who gets to speak for and against, because those are
Weak and
pretty
strong,
significant. And I'm curious of how we would go about doing that.
And it well may be if you choose to. That's what I'd like to introduce this item to your attention.
We think.
And I didn't want to get to the point of you having a resolution today. Because again, it's predicated on the decision that you may not take related to putting this on the ballot whenever you decide to do it. It's just going to bring to your attention for you to start thinking about this. And always may be the option to leave it up to the auditor to do that work. And that is also an option as well.
Yeah, get a level of
Right. So
protection.
I'm just bringing this because my intent is not to surprise you on a week before you have to take an action. We're just about a month away from the first deadline if you choose to go on August. And again, for you to start thinking about this, that's the intent of this item.
I guess what I'd like to see at some point, because we're going to be doing something, we got to act like we're doing something anyway, and we don't want to just put our head in the sand. So should we move ahead with advertising for those that are interested in a pro or con position, so that at least the public can be made aware of it, that we're going to be looking for folks to participate, either pro or against, so we meet the requirement of the law? Because it sounds like we've got a requirement here that we have to do something with, and I think the sooner we move forward on this, regardless of if we decide, well, it's too quick for August and we want to go on to February or whatever, at least we've started this process. These people probably are going to feel the same about it no matter what, So, this gentleman that wants to be on there, I think it's great, but I suppose we need a list that and in the end, maybe we'll have a list of, 20 on each side, and we'll try to pick out, or the auditor can pick from it. I don't know.
You'll put that together for us? You'll put something together for us as a process or something?
Well, it really is the process that you feel comfortable with. Really,
Right.
For me, is for you to start thinking about this, that's the process you'd like to follow, just leave it up to the auditor. So what I'll do next week is just give you some specific options.
Options, yes, thank you.
We either leave both sides to the auditor, or we can leave one side to the auditor?
Those are the options that I will bring that to you next Tuesday.
All right. Thank you. HR Director interviews. Ta-da.
This is just a follow-up.
Yep.
Yesterday, as you know, you narrowed down from all the different applications to 6. The first panel of interviews, which included Diana Benson from the Auditor's Office, Kurt Harding, your Emergency Services Director, Pam Harmon-Bayer from Superior Court, Chief Dave Purcell from the Sheriff's Office, Shelley Slaughter from Public Health, Debbie Watson from Human Resources, and Nancy Buono Graham. She is the HR Director from Kitsap County.
Oh. Well, that's widespread.
So they conducted,
and
I think we had a very good panel when we did this. So the result of that is they're going to be recommended 3 individuals for you to consider that. At this point, I don't want to say the names because they need to be contacted and contacted the other ones who have not been selected. I have already scheduled a meeting this Friday. I will ask you to come at 8:45 just to work through the logistics of the interview process. And the interviews will begin at 9 o'clock with the top 3 candidates. That will take us until noon. At noon, I have scheduled an executive session, and lunch will be provided, so don't worry about that. And at that point, we'll have the opportunity to have a conversation among yourselves as to what you've heard on the top 3, and then we'll determine next steps.
And you know the top 3 now?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
That's all I wanted to say on the HR director interviews.
All right. Do you have anything regarding that?
Not regarding that, no.
And I just closed it. We're at Tilly Road?
No, it's
Or
here.
here, right here, okay. Anything further?
Not on
All
that.
right, thank you, Ramiro. Now it takes us to any commissioner items. And do you have any commissioner items?
Yeah, so I wanted everybody to be aware of a meeting that is expanding in scope. And I'll just kind of walk you through where we started. Carolyn, so you know that there's the ad hoc committee on homelessness that the city started, and Commissioner Hutchings and Romero have been there. I'm not sure if you've been there, but I went there in January. The mitigation site that we've been talking about for homeless response, Carolyn Cox of Lacey City Council, who's the Lacey representative on the ad hoc committee, reached out and said Lacey's interested in exploring partnership opportunities with you, which I was excited about because Kaylee had told me that one of the things that in her working on this concept with Olympia was that our sheriffs were concerned about law enforcement response to that location given their staffing issues. So I said, well, I know that, is Lacey Police interested in being a partner? And she was like, absolutely. So I was like, okay, there's an opportunity there and the site being located right near Lacey and Olympia, and makes it an obvious place for us to partner. So she was going to set up a meeting with Jim Cooper, who is Olympia's representative to that same committee, and myself, just to kind of talk through some possibilities for collaboration that I could then bring back to the board. In the meantime, I guess a lot of people have gotten wind of this meeting and have gotten excited about it, and Mayor of Lacey, Andy Ryder, wants to be a part of it. Mayor Komet of Tumwater wants to be a part of it. The city manager of Olympia is going to be there, and I guess we're going to have it here on Monday around lunchtime because we don't have any other place to have it. So I guess everybody's invited. It's not, and it's really just going to be a brainstorming. I'll be taking notes. If you guys aren't here, I'll report back what the ideas were. But the concept would be what can we do as sort of to expand our concept of regional collaboration and maybe do some bigger and better things with this mitigation. The property, if you remember Keeley's pros and cons list, the property is so uniquely situated in terms of how big it is, and the trees and the outbuilding and the transit line and its proximity to Lacey, Olympia, and county land, that it makes it just kind of a magic spot to potentially do something bigger. And so there's thoughts of a services hub, there's thoughts of Lacey's really interested in places that it can have people that are camping in vehicles and abandoned trailers. Like, that's not working very well in Lacey streets and neighborhoods. They'd like to have somewhere that they could maybe concentrate, and we could have, I don't know. Just kind of giving you an idea of what the ideas I've heard darting around. It's going to be kind of an initial brainstorming session related to that mitigation site. So Monday at 11:30, 11:45.
Yeah, so it may be a good opportunity to make sure that all of us are on the same page.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hutchins and I attended the ad hoc committee last month.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation with Council Member Cox as well as Council Member Cooper were part of that conversation. And the result of that conversation is to continue the conversations. And in fact, there is a meeting scheduled for this coming Monday at 4:30 in the afternoon to continue the conversations that we had on the ad hoc committee, which Councilmember Cooper, Councilmember Cox, and Commissioner Hutchins and I are having that meeting. So I'm a little bit...
And Tumwater's involved too.
Yeah, Tumwater. So I'm a little bit disconnected as
Yeah.
to now this new meeting that is coming up. And I think goes back to the point of I think the committee should formally invite the county to be part, because that's the right forum to have these conversations. Also, last week on my meeting with the city managers, I had this conversation about the mitigation side. And I explained the need of having a regional approach in terms of really, the commissioner is going to be entertaining a public hearing May 7th to have an emergency resolution related to the usage, to allow the usage of this particular site. But that's just the first step. Because when we get to the point of how we're going to be using it, the site, what actions do we need to take, we need to have a local agreement, I explained to the city managers, where we need to address not just who is going to pay for the long-term maintenance, what is the long-term objectives, what are the usage, and law enforcement. Mm-hmm. On Friday morning, I met with Under Sheriff Braniff, and he raised those concerns about law enforcement response. And I did explain that the process of this is really to form a local agreement that will include law enforcement response. There is already a mutual local agreement of response between all the law enforcement and the county. That may be probably one step as to how we can probably build on that. So related to the meeting that you're having, Commissioner Menser, I'm just curious as to how we're going in some of the different directions. Because my understanding, based on and you can help me, Commissioner Hutchins, my understanding was, as a result of the ad hoc meeting, this is a follow-up meeting that we, the smaller group, is going to come back to the upcoming meeting and start reporting on a permanent basis what is it that we need to do as the next step. So, so I'm a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have those answers. I'm just letting you know. I was just, like I say, I was asked to talk. It started out just being Lacey wanting to know, because Keely and Colin had been talking about, how it would work to set up a mitigation site. I think Lacey just got wind of that and wanted to know how they could be part of the partnership. And it started, it's just that there's so much excitement or enthusiasm or momentum right now around these issues. I think that's just, things are not proceeding in as orderly a fashion as we'd like, but we should seize on that enthusiasm. And again, I'm not trying to step anyone's toes. That's exactly why I'm bringing this up, just so, and again, if we can combine what you're doing and with what we're doing, or if there's a good reason to have them separate, it all sounds good to me, but let's just continue to communicate.
Absolutely.
So that
well,
we
post-election last year, November, December, and even into January, I was in contact with a couple council folks about the county coming back or coming to the coalition meeting to offer assistance, offer mitigation sites, offer plans, be a part of the whole thing. And we attended last month, and it was a good reception. We were very happy to be there. They seemed very happy to have us. When we were asked about expectations, I said my expectation is we will continue with this at the table, because we want to talk about the planning, the paying, the policing, the exit strategy at all. How is this all going to come together? But that we are a willing participant, and it felt really good to me until I heard, well, we have to discuss it as a committee and decide whether you're going to be invited back or not, which I took as a slap in the face. But okay, let them decide if we're going to be invited back. Now we have a meeting again next week. And now I hear it's kind of like taking off a different route now. And I wonder, I don't know what to read from that. This is very first blush, raw. This is me unplugged. And so I don't know what to make of that, quite frankly.
But I think the need is what would be the right forum to have that regional conversation? That's really perhaps the first question that needs to be answered. Because there is a lot of energy, as you stated, there is a lot of momentum in here. Let's capture at this point when it's right to have the right forum to occur the regional conversation. Who needs to be part of that? I think it's good to have that conversation as to where there will be the right forum to have this conversation.
Yeah, so I don't know where to go from here at this point. I'm just processing it now. But the formality of inviting the county is one thing. The informality of having an ad hoc gathering is quite another. And then how do you blend them? I don't want to lose that energy and enthusiasm. A lot of smart minds at the table. But I think it just has to be done the proper way, and I'm not sure exactly what that is at this point. But your
Yeah, and
meeting is
if I-
noon Monday?
11:45, the
Here?
15th.
Okay.
Yeah, and the 15th, we have a meeting here at 4 o'clock, and it's Commissioner Hutchins, Shelley, which not be able to attend, Councilmember Cooper, and Councilmember Cox, and myself.
But not
Here, 4
Tumwater.
o'clock on the
Okay.
15th.
Because Joan Cathy attended the last one as well.
She's not invited on this.
Okay.
You remember, it was a smaller committee.
No, it was a smaller, you're right, yeah.
It-
It was the executive
Yeah,
committee.
we're going
or
to start
whatever.
working some of the details, and then we're going to be reporting back to the next ad hoc meeting.
Yeah, well, and let me, I'm trying to think of, there might have been one thing I said that was misrepresented. So I was identifying Carolyn Cox and Jim Cooper as part of that committee just so there'd be an understanding of why it might be them reaching out. They did not reach out to me as part of that committee. This is not related to the ad hoc committee. I just called them that so that there'd be like, well, why is, I mean, why would it be those two? Well, they're the representatives. I was just pointing out they're the representatives to the ad hoc committee on homelessness. But this is not. I think this is much more organic and informal than there is no formal connection to the ad hoc committee.
Oh, okay.
The way this unfolded, and that may be the difference.
Well, good, then they'll have some meat to bring to the 4 o'clock meeting.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So we'll just.
That helps.
And if you're around, please join us.
Okay. Gary?
I like your comment on we need an exit strategy, because that's a big piece of this. I think we need to be looking at this for a long-term solution. And I mean, one of the things I've been complaining about all along is that we need to positively ID these people, and we have to quit enabling these individuals to come here from all over the Northwest. I think Channel 4's special that was Seattle's dying or something, I think it was right on target. I know there's been criticism of that in one fashion or another, but I think Eric Johnson did a heck of a report there, and they also looked into that long-term solution, which I think they went somewhere on the eastern seaboard. I don't
Rhode
know
Island.
exactly. Rhode Island. is that where
Providence,
it
Rhode
was?
Island.
And looked at how they could come up with a solution. And I'm not as interested in putting all these people in one location and then saying, well, what do we do now? Because I think we have to be planning at the same time for some type of an exit strategy to deal with this problem, not be enabling these people, because I think that's been a big problem as to why we have whatever the count is now, 300 tents instead of 30 tents from last year. But we do need to be working on what is it that we can put in place either to get these people back to where they came from, get them some help, get them on a maintenance program, because it looked like most of what we were dealing with was drugs and mental health, it sounded like, at least from that special.
Well, they agree that we're going to be working on it. I mean, other cities' jurisdictions agreed with an exit strategy.
I mean, this is something that's going to be all part of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Initially, yeah. Anything else? Anything else? Any commissioner items?
No other,
don't
I
have
got
any.
another meeting at noon, so.
Okay. Anything else around the table? Anything?
I'm good, Commissioner, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for
One
joining
last-
us.
One last item, sorry.
Wait.
On the planning session, I give you a copy of the draft letter to the governor. And this is related to declaring an emergency on homelessness at the state. And I was hoping for you to provide comments to this letter before I send to the mayors.
Is that the one I already commented on last week?
No, this is the letter to the governor.
Okay.
The comments you provided last week was to the biosolids.
Okay.
Forwarding that to you, special.
Where do I find that letter?
I'm sorry, I gave you copies on the planning session, but I'll put another
Okay,
copy
good.
on your inbox.
Thank you,
That was
sir.
good. I don't have anything.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Just on that letter, I don't think I've read that particular letter, but is there something in there about developing an exit strategy, a solution to the problem. Not just, hey, put something in the budget and give us some money, because I don't think that solves the problem in the end. So I just wonder, is it in there?
It's a lengthy letter, so how about if I give you a copy and you
Yeah, I'll
can
read it.
provide comments?
Good enough.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned.